Hey everyone, Mechageddon here with a rundown of RPG news for June 2023. Since my previous update, I realized a couple things. One, I cannot do weekly updates. I do not have the time to blast off a recording and editing that quickly, as I actually do have a regular day job. As well, not a lot happens in a single week unless some company decides to send goons to a person's home or destroys a 23-year standing policy with the gaming industry. But you know, so I'll be doing a kind of bi-weekly or even monthly roundup of some news and new releases from the RPG community. I'll be breaking this video down by news, product releases, and then Kickstarter launches and updates. There'll also be chapter markers with specific topics so you can skip the things that you're not interested in. So let's start with the news. Probably the biggest news item once again involved Wizards of the Coast. But this time, not that they're doing something soul-crushing to the community or sending out a goon squad to a poor Magic the Gathering player's home. This involves their lawsuit with NuTSR, which is a company created by Gary Gygax's son and failed Republican politician, John Lanaza, that had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in North Carolina on June 8th. So Chapter 7 means they're going to liquidate TSR's property to pay off their debts. This is a little different from a more common bankruptcy in the US called Chapter 11, which is restructuring of debt, but I won't go into more legalese about that. TSR's website remains active, but none of their previous products, games, or merchandise is available for sale. Instead, it just has this big, ominous, big sale coming soon text that fills the background of an otherwise empty landing page. A judge has ruled that the legal stay on TSR's entrenched battle against Wizards of the Coast, along with any other lawsuits, will remain in effect until March of 2024. This NuTSR sued Wizards for the rights to the sci-fi RPG Starfinder, and subsequently dropped that suit amid a crowdfunding campaign for their own version, and then they were slapped with a countersuit by the massive Hasbro-owned company, which claimed NuTSR was fraudulently using the classic TSR logo, which of course Wizards of the Coast and their parent company Hasbro have owned the TSR name and logo, I believe, for a couple decades now. More importantly, was the claim that TSR's new version of Star Frontiers contained blatantly racist and transphobic and reprehensible content. According to Wizards of the Coast's 2022 injunction that aimed to stop any playtesting, distribution, or design on Star Frontiers. Although this comes from Wizards of the Coast, who had the same thing said about the Hadozzi and Spelljammers, so take that with a grain of salt. Lanaza and his version of TSR are in the financial toilet. The court documents show the company's assets, and it has amassed a whopping $621.92 since the beginning of 2023. So the humorous part of the full legal liabilities is that they include a payment owed to Lanaza when he acted as the dubious legal counsel for the upstart publisher. And that currently totaled $384,941.99. So he basically paid himself as a lawyer and built his own company, and now he has no money left.
You're an idiot.
Let's get on to some new product. Paizo released a huge teaser update on their Howl of the Wild releasing in 2024. This included a ton of concept art of the new crew of the Zoetrope. This artwork gave us a good glimpse of the new ancestries being released in the book. Now, I will forewarn you, I'm giving the names a good shot at pronunciation, but there are a few that I have no clue, so let's just wing it. First off, Barnas and Aruxi, also known as a lizard folk, who will be getting a remaster in Player Core 2. Next up, Chariklea is a minotaur from the Earthsong people of the Isle of Kortors. Then there's the swift centaur Telerio, who trailblazes ahead of the airship to make sure the way is clear for scientists to follow. Now, I believe that leads me to believe that there are some fun magic items coming for centaurs. Lithia, a merfolk blown far away from her home, though she's sure to treat everyone with joy and laughter. Merfolk are an aquatic ancestry with many magical talents, including shaping of water and crying pearls or beguiling others with their siren song. Lithia gets around deck with the help of her Little Sea, which is an example of a new item for the aquatic characters debuting in the Howl of the Wild, which you can see in the artwork. Next up is Greyfu, an Athamaru, an amphibious people who primarily are located under the sea of the nation of Zidao in TNZ. Athamaris are highly communal, with a more physical bent, whether that's keeping coral symbiotes that can cleanse poisons from their blood, communicating via pheromones, or training pet eels to aid them. It's going to be so fun. Dr. Palm is an awakened animal, in her case, a sand badger, a highly versatile new ancestry that allows you to play an animal that has gained sapience. So, okay, let me just pause here for a minute. Awakened animals, so cool. In our LARP, we have kin, which are animal people, and I even play a large panther kin SAR. So hearing this news is just tremendous joy to me. When I told my Kingmaker group about it, the excitement for the players was tangible. The idea of an otterkin or a pandakin is just so much fun. The one thing I can really see is the ease of using this ancestry with kids. This will open up a lot of possibilities within the game for a lot of players. I'd love to read some opinions in the comments below about these new ancestries. And finally, whose antenna is askew, or 10 for short? They are a Surkai, a brand new ancestry designed from the ground up for Howl the Wild. Rather appropriate so, as Surkais are subterranean people who burrow to Galarian's surface once in a periodic generation's digs, recent of which was triggered by the closing of the world wound. Surkais ambiently absorb magic, metamorphosing later in life with unique adaptations based on what they've absorbed. So I can see this leading to all sorts of ancestral feats for this new ancestry. Next up, Starfinder's getting a big new book from their website. Looming big and bright on the Starfinder's horizon is Starfinder Enhanced, a book of player options, items, spells, and rulings for scaling up equipment. This book rolls out enhanced versions of 4 classes, the Envoy, Solarian, Technomancer, and Witch Warper, and presents new rules and changes that reflect feedback from the experiences of developers and community members alike. As well, Starfinder and mech fans can look forward to Mechageddon, a high-level hardcover adventure path coming in 2024. So this was announced at PaizoCon. This adventure starts on Damalco, a planet of kaiju, and takes players through levels 3 to 18, letting their mechs level up with them to tier 17. So anyone who's ever wanted to play a version of Pacific Rim or take on Godzilla, here's your chance. On to Renegade Studios. So they had Renegade Con about a week or so ago, and they announced a slew of new RPGs for their Power Rangers, Transformers, and G.I. Joe Essence 20 systems. First, G.I. Joe. I'm an absolutely huge nerd when it comes to G.I. Joe. I had an insane collection when I was a kid. I spent all my allowance and paychecks on the figures. Alas, I sold my collection at a garage sale when I moved from my hometown when I was about 18. I think I made a couple $100. I'm pretty sure my original Snake Eyes is worth about that right now. Anyway, the first book is called Ferocious Fighters, Factions in Action Volume 1, introducing 7 new factions for the G.I. Joe role-playing game. The G.I. Joe's Tiger Force, Anti-Venom Task Force, Dino Hunters, and Mega Marine teams, along with Cobra's Python Patrol, Cobra Law, and Mega Monsters. Each faction comes with new mechanics, advice for GMs on creating faction-specific stories, and specialized faction equipment. Play wild stories such as raiding Cobra's hidden Python temple or spreading the glory of Cobra Law. This is a pre-order for November. Next up, and I'm kind of really stupidly excited for this one, Cobra Wants You. The global criminal organization known as Cobra is recruiting and looking for the meanest and most ruthless potential operatives for their dastardly schemes. After all, the world isn't going to take over itself. The Sourcebook presents everything players need to create Cobra characters, as well as everything a GM needs to run a Cobra campaign. So this will feature things like new character options for Cobra characters and Joes, new influences, origins, and focuses, new equipment, including poisons and toxins, experimental equipment, and shields, mutations to the cybernetic equipment, and the customization of your character. Also, as well, there'll be new resources for game masters, ways to define Cobra as an organization, and how each might impact your campaign. There will be new threats and NPCs. There also will be an original new mission called Pressure for Cobra characters alone. This one comes out in August, so it is definitely a Gen Con release. Moving on to Transformers. Megatron says rise. The Decepticons aren't merely a faction of a dissatisfied Cybertronians, they are a political movement. They simply were looking for a way out from under the strict morality of the Primes and were branded criminals because of it. But now it's time to put those smug Autobots back in their place. The Sourcebook presents everything the players need to create a Decepticon character, as well as everything a GM needs to run a Decepticon campaign. Furthermore, many of the options presented are fully compatible with Autobot characters, especially those who want to complete their missions by any means necessary. This book will feature a multitude of new character options, including, again, influences, origins, and role focuses, an entirely new role, the Raider, who takes what they want by force. New gear including dangerous weapons and alternate strains of Energon. Decepticon locations, threats, and allies usable in any campaign, and including a mission for new Decepticons. So this one's a pre-order for September. Next up is Power Rangers, which is another big brand for Renegade. It is releasing a few new books this year. One is called A Jump Through Time, which creates a wealth of new options for your Power Rangers role-playing game, both for players and game masters. This one is a pre-order for November. I really don't know much about the Power Rangers, but it seems fun. They're going to have another book called The Secrets of Monster-Matic. Finster's Monster-Matic cookbook provides over 100 threats to use with the Power Rangers role-playing game. In addition to threats or tactics and story hooks, this cookbook features advice for creating, adapting, and using threats in your game. Test your Power Rangers with Rita Repulsa or Lord Zed's alien sorcery and explore sinister options for your Power Rangers role-playing game. This is another Gen Con release, so it'll be out in 2023. And finally, Fantastic Worlds and Terrifying Foes That Threaten the Grid. Across the Stars gives the Power Rangers role-playing game stories all players and GMs need for space travel and to face off against foes from the Machine Empire, Trubian Empire, Pirate Queen Divatox's Marauders, and the forces of the United Alliance of Evil. This one is a pre-Gen Con release coming out in July of this year. Lastly from Renegade is an addition to the World of Darkness, Werewolf the Apocolypse. As a new generation of Garou confront the forces of destruction, avarice, and greed ravaging the Earth Mother. This includes everything you need to build your own character or guide a troop as they explore their new forms. Join one of 11 tribes, each unique with narrative depth for players to explore and storytellers to utilize. Includes an introductory story to guide new werewolf players and veteran World of Darkness enthusiasts through their first game. So build your legend, vie for renown, and fight to take back what has been lost. All right, let's talk about something new in VTTs. First of all, Fantasy Grounds version 4.4 is coming out. New feature highlights include animated graphic support for WebM and WebP, including static WebP, Sirenscape web player integration plus a sound set, NPC, story context, and weapon spell triggers, which honestly has been a module and an extension already for several years by a third-party creator, so it looks like they're finally playing a little bit of catch-up on this one. Export any image record to an image file, such as a PNG or JPEG, including XML metadata for line of sight and lighting. You can also import UVTT file formats. This is great for third-party map-making software. Next up, Foundry version 11 is out. And from their website, they say not only have we improved performance in a lot of ways, but we also totally replaced our database engine and done a complete overhaul of our setup screen. I can verify that. We have also massively upgraded our sidebar by adding better search and folder support for compendium packs, great new features to our journal system and visual table editor, and support for highlighting text to automatically find relevant links, brand new wall types, and door sounds. Tons of improvements and bug fixes for developers and so much more. They'll be adding an 11.5 release though. In my video about different VTTs, I have a big issue with Foundry updating and mods that creators have just made breaking into unusable instances and really messing up GMs. So they say before beginning work on version 12, we plan a slight deviation from our normal development process. The process, both good and bad, of updating to version 11 has given us more feedback, highlighting ways that we can make this process smoother and safer for users. So they're going to work on an iteration of the Foundry VTT software to represent an intermediate update between version 11 and version 12, which they're just calling version 11.5. This update will invest in two big features. One is adding a pre-update compatibility check that will tell you if a package is already compatible with the new version, not compatible with but with a compatible upgrade available, or not compatible without any compatible upgrade available. They're also going to be doing a built-in backup. So you'll be able to back up your worlds either individually or in bulk and take a snapshot of all your packages before you perform a major version update. These backups will be stored in a separate data location. They will provide an interface that allows you to see your available backups and restore them or roll back your entire installation to how it was before you updated the Foundry Virtual Tabletop. Apparently, people don't back things up before updating. That's so weird. Lastly, let's jump into some Kickstarter items. First, Knave has successfully funded their Kickstarter and have released their first draft to backers. Now, one of the things they did say was that this is draft 6 because people on their Patreon got to see the first 5 versions. So even though this says draft 6, this is the first draft for backers. Next up, Arcana has announced that they need more time to fix some back-end code that they're hoping to use from a third party that did not meet their expectations. So the beta launch of the software for non-Kickstarter backers will be postponed until summer 2023, giving them a few months leeway to get the code where it needs to be. Another one that I have supported and will show off when allowed to is Mehnr. It is about to launch the beta release to backers of their forest biome. So this is a procedurally generated map that you can add things in like villages, dungeons, and more. There'll be full support of all the biomes upon release, but we get to play around with the forest first and see what breaks. Paizo's Abomination Vault Kickstarter is 91% funded with about 10 days to go. So this is a co-op hack and slash video game by BKOM Studios. Next up is Tales of the Valiant by Kobold Press, which has crossed the $1.2 million mark with less than a week to go. I'm still rather ambivalent about it, but it looks like it's going to be a great success for Kobold Press, so congrats to them. Lastly is a new Kickstarter that launched about a week ago that is already fully funded, called Aetherial Expanse, and it claims to be a story of sails, cannons, empires, and high piracy. So from the Kickstart website, floating in the endless void of the astral plane is a sea of silver starlight, a vast expanse of ethereal liquid that shimmers as comets shoot through its surface. The astral plane is the plane between planes, and portals to these manifold realms tear themselves open and seal themselves shut as if guided by an unseen will. Upon this ethereal expanse, a story of sails, cannons, empires, and high piracy is set. This guide to Aetherial Expanse provides everything you need to start your own 5e campaign in a wondrously magical setting. Inside this gloriously illustrated hardcover sourcebook, you'll find over 200 pages of rich, swashbuckling content to bring your gaming table. So they do have tiers from about $25 PDF to $150 full setting of hardcover books, a GM screen, a fabric map, a card deck, a VTT license, and more. This has under a month to go. It is a 5e compatible version releasing in about August 2024. So you'll have to wait over a year to get this Kickstarter. But looking over it, this to me is what Spelljammers should have been. They claim to have full ship combat rules, a set of races, 6 new subclasses, several backgrounds, as well as spells, monsters, and more. The VTT license will include one from either Foundry, Roll20, or the 5e Nexus, which is by Demiplane. So last bit of news, or kind of a gripe from me. Skip to the outro if you wish. Wizards of the Coast released another video about the upcoming 5e revision. They're still calling it 5e, but now they're adding the tagline 2024. For the love of whatever deity they seem to be worshipping, please just call it 5.5. Let's not kid ourselves. This will not be fully compatible with 2014 player handbooks. The two sets of characters are going to end up so divergent that players, DMs, and groups will have to figure out if they wish to swap to the new rules or not. Reworking the core rules means this is just another version. Just call it that. I know they want to keep 5e so that everyone currently playing thinks they're playing the same game, but they will not be, at least not for player characters. Adventures will still work as most monsters are not fundamentally changing, and even then, monsters with class skills still are not the same as a full-blown PC. So unless they're drastically changing the monsters, DMs will still be fine running adventures, but the characters will change to a point where the party needs to figure out which way they want to go. And just leaving the title as 5th edition is a lie, and worse, so confusing to somebody getting into the hobby. Nothing like saying, we'll be playing 5th edition, and the player grabs the wrong player's handbook because the DM meant the 2014 version, not the new 2024 version.
I'm so confused.
Oh well, this is another reason I will not be purchasing the new rulebooks from Wizards of the Coast when they release. My 2014 stuff works just as well today as it will in 2024. If you're interested in more content, please like and subscribe below and click on the bell for notifications on new videos. Let me know what games are coming up that I should investigate and what you're excited to see release this year. I will try my best to respond, but life always has a way of interfering with my fun. Remember to support your local game store. As a former game store owner, I cannot stress enough how important your local game store is. In the meantime, and in between time, that's it, another Mythic episode. Thank you for watching, and may all your games be full of myth, earth, and magic.